All right, dear Matsons, my kids are in public school and I'm worried about the health curriculum. Should I keep them home or pull them out? What do you suggest? Sincerely, too much, too soon.
Wow, well, glad you asked this question. I mean, just to say right out of the gate that we are so right there with you. We've got two daughters in public school, and that's on purpose, but boy, we really evaluate this often and more often than ever before.
I think I ask the girls weekly if they want me to homeschool them at this point because of this question.
Yeah. So just to empathize with you, the fact that this is really tricky now, and it's gotten a lot harder to try to navigate, what's too much and when, and really respect for you as a parent as you're considering your kids and their unique differences, how God's made them and what they might be vulnerable to, and how you can provide some help and equipping for them individually and together as a family. So we're right there with you trying to do that. Just want to acknowledge that this is tricky, it's hard, and yet we don't need to be afraid. You can step in and step towards this, turning towards your kids and as a family unit, and use these opportunities to bring you closer and help them to develop a sense of clarity and confidence, and to understand the contrast between God's design and what they've learned and what you've shared with them about that, and how clear that is in so many ways, and the complicated aspects of our broken world and all of the messaging that's out there. We want to be the first voice in our kids' lives. And yeah, we're having conversations about things that we never wanted to as early as we have, but we're not going to let other people be the first voice, especially if that's a voice of confusion that's going to be connecting with them. So a commitment to that. Second is that our part of our job as parents is to really know the curriculum, right? To have an understanding. And I'm thankful that our public school district, even though they're teaching things that we fundamentally totally disagree with, provided that curriculum in advance out of respect and given parents an opportunity to opt in or opt out of certain sections of the curriculum and the health curriculum. So we read it all and we looked at what would be discussed. And actually there was a lot that we agreed with, a lot. And we had conversations together first about what we might consider wanting to opt out of. And in many cases, we've chose to opt in. But we had the conversations with our kids so they wouldn't be caught off guard and surprised. That so far has worked out pretty good. And there's no guarantees here, but we're really trying to stay close to the pulse. What is going to be presented? What do our kids know, and what do they need to know so that they are actually in a position of being equipped and not caught off guard, sideballed with curveballs that we don't want them to have.
Well, and I want to give you a little context. We're in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, so we're in a very progressive public school health curriculum. So if you're like, yeah, but, and I go, nope, we're on the extreme of the things that are being taught. And so our bias is, again, know your children, know your family, know your culture, know the curriculum well. And then we had those conversations with our daughters, and we even actually walked through each lesson, and being able to pull out or opt out of a specific lesson is a great way to kind of do the both and. But if you are going to have your child in a lesson, then you have a conversation with them every step of the way. It means more work for us. And then we had to have the conversation after school and say, let's talk about this. I know this is what they taught. What did the teacher actually say? What were the dialogues? And you get to be a part of the conversation. So that's what we would encourage if you're going to keep them in the health curriculum. But I also want to encourage you that if you pull them out, then you need to do the job of giving them some education at home. Don't just opt out completely, and make sure that your kids learned about healthy sexuality. They learned about gender development. They understand the cultural norms versus what the biblical worldview is. And you're talking about it if you're going to opt out. So it's really a both and option here.
Yeah. And I think a good sense of humor in some of this is really important too, because I can just think of the conversations that we had with our daughters and are having, and there's just such awkwardness, like middle school health curriculum, and the dynamics that our daughter was feeling about being in the room with boys and what that would be like, and as the teacher is talking about sex, and it's like, so just join them in the awkwardness and the humor of it, and you use this opportunity to grow closer together and to build trust and to say, I get it, and to talk about what it was sort of like for you too, even being in that experience, and how relatable it can be. So
Yeah, so we're just really opting for courage. We'll end with this. In the book of Acts, I don't read anywhere, and maybe I'm wrong, and you can check with me, Pastor Jeff, but I do not read them praying for protection and to pull away. In fact, I read have courage and to move towards with boldness, that is what Paul is praying, and as they're going out into the world. And we're in a time right now where if we all pull back as believers, there won't be anybody that has a different perspective or a different worldview or examples of Jesus' love in the world. And so that isn't for every family. And one of the things we believe deeply is that God is putting your kids in certain places, whether that's public school, private school, homeschool, for their greater call and the things that he's doing in their life for the long haul. And so for our daughters, it's important that they're in public school because they have a lot of believers around them, a wonderful community, and they are spending time practicing in the public schools right now how to have dialogue with people that have believed different than them and have friendships with people that live different than them. So that's a value that's working for our daughters because of the call on their life. Yeah. It might be different for you. And so trust that. Lean into God's voice. Get to know your kids. And it could be a weekly dialogue. This week you're in public school. Next week you're homeschooling. That's okay with us. So at the end, we believe deeply that God is with you and he is using you to help guide your child.
Yeah, remember, you're the right parent for the job, and we're here cheering you.